Sarah never believed in miracles until she held 3 heartbeats in her hands. After 11 years of empty pregnancy tests, closed nursery doors, and nights spent wondering if she'd ever be called mom, the universe had a surprise that would test everything she thought she knew about faith and hope. But what happened next, nobody could have predicted. Not the doctors, not her family, and certainly not Sarah herself. 'Cause sometimes, when you're blessed with a miracle pregnancy, life has one more twist waiting in the shadows. A twist so unexpected, so profound, that it would redefine everything Sarah thought she knew about motherhood, about love, and about the very meaning of family itself. If you're ready for a heartwarming story that will change how you think about family forever, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because this journey has more surprises than you can imagine. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end, because the twist in this story will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about what makes a family. Sarah and Michael's love story began like so many others, with dreams painted in soft pastels and a future that seemed written in stone. They met in college, both studying education, both dreaming of lives filled with children's laughter and bedtime stories. They'd have their first baby by year 2, maybe a second by year 4. The nursery would be yellow, gender-neutral, with a rocking chair by the window where Sarah would feed their little miracle while Michael read bedtime stories. Sarah had always been a planner. She color-coded her calendar, kept detailed lists, and believed that if you worked hard enough and planned carefully enough, life would follow your timeline. But dreams, Sarah learned, don't always follow timelines. Year 1 passed with eager anticipation. They threw away the birth control pills with ceremony, started taking prenatal vitamins, and downloaded fertility tracking apps. Sarah charted her cycles with the dedication of a scientist, took her temperature every morning at the same time, and monitored every possible sign that might indicate pregnancy. Year 2 brought concern wrapped in hope. Maybe they were trying too hard. Maybe they needed to relax, take a vacation, stop thinking about it so much. Friends and family offered well-meaning advice. Just relax and it will happen, they said. Stop stressing about it. Sarah tried it all: yoga, meditation, dietary changes, supplements. But month after month, the tests came back negative. By year 3, the yellow nursery had become a storage room. Its door kept firmly closed because hope, while precious, could also be painful. The test became a monthly ritual of heartbreak. 2 pink lines seemed as mythical as unicorns. Sarah's friends started avoiding baby showers, knowing the sight of tiny onesies would send Sarah rushing to the bathroom, tears streaming down her face. The isolation was perhaps the worst part. While her friends moved forward with their lives, getting pregnant, having babies, posting photos of first steps and first words, Sarah felt frozen in time, stuck in a life that refused to progress according to plan. She attended birthday parties for her friends' children, bringing carefully chosen gifts while dying inside, wondering if she'd ever shop for her own child. By year 5, the doctors had names for everything: unexplained infertility, low ovarian reserve, hostile cervical mucus, words that felt like weapons, each diagnosis chipping away at Sarah's belief that her body was capable of creating life. The medical appointments became a second job. The fertility drugs turned her emotions into a roller coaster that Michael rode alongside her, holding her hand through every injection, every disappointment, every "I'm sorry." The test was negative. By year 9, their marriage had become a casualty of grief. They moved around each other like ghosts, afraid to speak the words that hung between them. Maybe it's time to stop trying. The weight of their shared disappointment had created a chasm between them. Sex had become clinical, timed to Sarah's ovulation schedule, rather than driven by desire or intimacy. "We need help," Sarah finally admitted one evening. "Not medical help. We need help with us." In counseling, they learned to communicate again, to see each other as more than just potential parents. They rediscovered the people they'd been before infertility consumed their lives. They started dating each other again, having conversations that didn't revolve around ovulation and doctor appointments. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. Sarah's sister Jessica called to announce her 3rd pregnancy, an oops baby that came so easily, so naturally, while Sarah had been charting temperatures and timing intimacy like a military operation. That night, as Michael held her while she sobbed into his chest, they made a decision that felt like surrender and freedom all at once. They would try in vitro fertilization one more time. If it didn't work, they would explore other options: adoption, foster care, or perhaps accepting that their family would be complete as just the two of them. One last try. One final attempt at their miracle pregnancy before they'd explore other paths to parenthood. The IVF clinic felt like a last-chance casino, where dreams were the currency and heartbreak was always possible. Sarah's faith and hope had been tested beyond measure, but she found strength she didn't know she possessed. Dr. Rodriguez, their new reproductive endocrinologist, radiated confidence and compassion. Unexplained infertility is frustrating, but it doesn't mean pregnancy is impossible. We're going to be aggressive with your protocol. Maximum stimulation medications to retrieve as many eggs as possible. The IVF process was intense. Daily injections that left her abdomen covered in bruises, frequent monitoring appointments, the constant uncertainty of not knowing how her body would respond. But for the first time in years, Sarah felt hopeful. The egg retrieval yielded 12 eggs, more than they'd dared to hope for. Of those, 8 fertilized successfully. 3 made it to the blastocyst stage. Dr. Rodriguez recommended transferring 2 embryos to maximize their chances, with the 3rd frozen as backup. The 2-week wait that followed was the longest 14 days of Sarah's life. She analyzed every twinge, every symptom, every change in her body. The call came on a Thursday morning. Sarah was folding laundry when her phone rang and Dr. Rodriguez's office appeared on the caller ID. Her heart began racing so fast she wondered if she might faint. "Sarah?" The voice belonged to Maria, the nurse coordinator. "The blood test came back positive. You're pregnant." The words hung in the air, not quite registering. After 11 years of negative tests, Sarah's brain couldn't immediately process the word positive in relation to pregnancy. "But there's more," Maria continued. "Your HCG levels are extremely high for this early in pregnancy. There's a good chance you might be carrying more than one baby." The phone slipped from Sarah's fingers. More than one baby. After 11 years of waiting, God had decided to make up for lost time. The next morning, they arrived at Dr. Rodriguez's office for the ultrasound. The technician, Linda, had Sarah lie back and applied the cold gel to her still flat abdomen. "Let's see what we've got," Linda said, pressing the ultrasound wand against Sarah's skin. At first, Sarah saw nothing but gray shadows and black spaces. Then Linda pointed to a small, bean-shaped shadow on the screen. "There's baby number 1. Michael squeezed Sarah's hand as they both stared at their first glimpse of their child, but Linda wasn't finished. "And there's baby number 2, she said, moving the wand slightly. Sarah gasped, tears already streaming down her face. Twins. But Linda still wasn't done. "And there's baby number 3. The room went completely silent except for the sound of 3 distinct heartbeats. Sarah stared at the screen in shock. "Triplets," Linda confirmed with a huge grin. "Congratulations, you're having triplets." 11 years of waiting, and God had decided to give her 3 babies at once. The room spun as she tried to process the impossible mathematics, from 0 to 3 in the span of one phone call. The celebration was tempered by reality. Triplet pregnancies were dangerous, for the babies and for Sarah. Dr. Rodriguez explained the risks: premature birth, low birth weight, the possibility of losing 1 or all 3 babies. Sarah would need complete bed rest starting around 24 weeks, weekly monitoring and prayers, lots of prayers. As the weeks passed and her body began to change in dramatic ways, Sarah embraced every aspect of her high-risk pregnancy. Morning sickness that lasted all day. She welcomed it as a sign that the babies were growing. Extreme fatigue. She was grateful for any symptom that indicated her pregnancy was progressing. By 16 weeks, Sarah looked like she was carrying a single baby at full term. Her back ached constantly. She couldn't sleep comfortably, and simple tasks like tying her shoes became impossible. But she'd never been happier. Every kick, every flutter, Every movement reminded her that she was carrying 3 miracles. The next 4 months transformed their home into a medical command center. When word spread that Sarah and Michael, the couple who'd struggled with infertility for over a decade, were finally pregnant with triplets, the outpouring of support was overwhelming. Friends organized meal trains. Colleagues contributed to funds for medical expenses. Strangers from online support groups sent care packages. At 24 weeks, Sarah was put on strict bed rest. The next 8 to 12 weeks would be spent horizontal, growing babies and trying to keep them cooking as long as possible. Michael arranged to work from home, setting up a desk in their bedroom so he could be near Sarah throughout the day. At 28 weeks, everything changed. Sarah woke up at 3 in the morning in a pool of fluid, contractions ripping through her body like earthquakes. The babies were coming, whether they were ready or not. In the ambulance, Sarah prayed harder than she'd ever prayed in her life, begging God to let her babies cook just a little longer. 28 weeks was viable. Babies born this early could survive, but every additional day would improve their chances dramatically. The hospital became their world for the next month. Sarah lay on strict bed rest, hooked to monitors that tracked 3 heartbeats, while Michael learned to decipher the language of medical emergencies. Every day the babies stayed inside was a victory. Every week they gained was a miracle. Sarah learned to identify each baby's personality through their movements. Emma, baby A, was the most active, often waking Sarah up at night with enthusiastic kicks. Mason, baby B, was calmer, seeming to go with the flow. Lily, baby C, was unpredictable, sometimes perfectly still for hours, and then suddenly active enough to set off monitor alarms. At 32 weeks exactly, Sarah's body decided it was time. The contractions couldn't be stopped by medication or bed rest. "It's time," Dr. Rodriguez announced. "Let's get these babies born safely." The C-section was a symphony of controlled chaos. 3 teams of doctors, 3 isolettes waiting, and Michael standing beside Sarah's head, whispering encouragement as their miracle pregnancy reached its climax. Emma arrived first, weighing 3 pounds and 2 ounces but screaming with fury. The sound of her cry filled the operating room, and Sarah burst into tears at the most beautiful sound she'd ever heard. Mason followed 90 seconds later, quieter but breathing steadily at 2 pounds and 15 ounces. He looked around with what seemed like curiosity rather than distress. Lily came last, the smallest at 2 pounds and 13 ounces, but with eyes wide open as if she wanted to see the world that had been waiting for her. The NICU became their second home. Sarah and Michael took shifts, learning to navigate feeding tubes and ventilators, celebrating ounces gained and milestones reached. Each baby was connected to monitors that tracked everything vital. The other NICU parents became their tribe, sharing fears and victories with people who understood the unique terror and joy of loving a baby who fits in the palm of your hand. Mason struggled more than his sisters. His lungs weren't quite ready for the outside world, and he required additional support. While Emma and Lily were making steady progress, Mason seemed to take 1 step forward and 2 steps back. After 6 weeks, Emma and Lily were ready to go home, weighing just over 4 pounds each, able to regulate their body temperature and feeding successfully. But Mason would need to stay for additional respiratory support. Sarah felt torn in half, wanting to be with the babies at home, but needing to be with Mason in the NICU. The week that followed was the most challenging of her life, dividing time between 2 newborns at home and hospital visits with Mason. Finally, Mason was cleared to go home. His oxygen levels were stable. He was gaining weight consistently, and he no longer needed respiratory support. The day they walked out of the hospital with all 3 babies was when their real journey as parents of triplets began. When all 3 babies finally came home, reality hit like a freight train. 24 diapers a day, feeding every 3 hours around the clock. Sarah and Michael moved through their days like zombies, taking turns sleeping in 2-hour shifts and wondering if they'd ever feel human again. Sarah's parents moved in for 3 months, becoming essential members of the household survival team. The village they'd never known they needed materialized around them, bringing casseroles and taking shifts with night feedings. Strangers in grocery stores stopped to stare at the triple stroller, offering everything from congratulations to unsolicited advice about college funds. The first year was pure survival mode. Color coding became essential. Emma was pink, Mason was blue, Lily was purple. Their bottles, pacifiers, toys, and clothes were organized by color to prevent mix-ups. As the babies grew into toddlers, their personalities bloomed. Emma emerged as the natural leader, always first to try new adventures. Lily was the peacemaker, offering hugs when her siblings cried. And Mason was methodical and focused, able to spend hours organizing blocks by color or size. But there were other differences too. Mason's hair was darker than his sister's, his eyes a different shade of brown. His facial features seemed to follow different genetic patterns. Sarah noticed but attributed them to normal variation between siblings. By 18 months, it became clear that Emma wasn't meeting her developmental milestones at the same pace as her siblings. The words weren't coming as quickly, and her motor skills lagged behind. Sarah found herself learning about early intervention and speech therapy. The guilt was crushing. Had something gone wrong during the pregnancy? During delivery? Was this somehow her fault? While Emma worked with therapists, Sarah threw herself into research and advocacy, learning to fight for services and celebrate small victories. The routine genetic testing at age 2 was supposed to be simple, just a formality to rule out conditions that might explain Emma's delays. Sarah wasn't worried when Dr. Chen, the genetic counselor, called asking them to come in. "I need to discuss Mason's results with you," Dr. Chen said, her voice carefully measured. "There's been an irregularity." Sarah felt that familiar twist in her stomach. What kind of irregularity? "Mason's DNA profile doesn't match either of you as biological parents." The words hung in the air like smoke. Sarah stared at the genetic counselor, trying to make sense of sentences that seemed foreign. Michael grabbed her hand, his grip tight enough to hurt. The explanation came in fragments. A mix-up at the fertility clinic. Wrong embryo transfer. Mason wasn't biologically theirs. He was the genetic child of another couple who had undergone IVF at the same clinic around the same time. Somewhere, another family was missing their biological child, just as Sarah and Michael were learning they'd been raising someone else's son for the past 2 years. The drive home was conducted in complete silence. Sarah stared out the window while trying to process the impossible. Mason, her Mason, who was at home probably playing with his blocks, wasn't biologically hers. But as soon as the thought formed, she rejected it. Biology hadn't made her Mason's mother. Pregnancy had. Birth had. 2 years of midnight feedings and first steps and bedtime stories had made her his mother. Love had made her his mother. The next months brought lawyers and ethical committees, genetic counselors and family meetings. The other biological parents had to be contacted. Sarah and Michael learned that David and Jennifer Morrison had undergone IVF at the same clinic during the same week. The Morrisons had been told their pregnancy ended in miscarriage at 8 weeks, not knowing their genetic embryo had been mistakenly transferred to Sarah. The first meeting between the two families took place in a neutral conference room with counselors present. Sarah had prepared for anger, demands, legal threats. Instead, she found a couple who looked as shell-shocked as she felt. "We don't want to disrupt his life," Jennifer said quietly, looking at photos of Mason. "He doesn't know us. You're his parents in every way that matters. We just needed to see that he was okay." "He's more than okay," Sarah replied through tears. "He's incredible. He's happy and healthy and loved beyond measure. You created something beautiful." Both families agreed. Mason's well-being was the priority. After extensive counseling, they developed an unprecedented arrangement. The Morrisons would have limited contact, photos, updates, occasional supervised visits that would increase as Mason got older. When mature enough to understand, he would be told the truth and given the opportunity to have a relationship with his biological parents. But Sarah and Michael would remain his primary parents, his legal guardians, his family in every meaningful sense. Mason was exactly where he belonged. Love wasn't about DNA markers or genetic matches. It was about showing up for 2 a.m. feedings and celebrating first steps. It was about knowing which cry meant hunger, about understanding each child's unique personality. The Morrisons understood this completely. During supervised visits, they watched Mason interact with his siblings and parents with obvious contentment. He was thriving exactly where he was. As months passed, this unusual family arrangement began to feel natural. The Morrisons sent birthday gifts and attended special events. Mason began to understand that David and Jennifer were special friends who cared about him particularly. Emma continued making progress in her therapies, reaching milestones at her own pace and showing remarkable determination. Lily developed into the family mediator, understanding complex emotional dynamics and serving as a bridge between her siblings when conflicts arose. Today, 5 years after that life-changing phone call, Sarah watches her 3 children play in the backyard that once felt too quiet. Emma's vocabulary grows daily, each word a testament to early intervention and family support. She speaks in full sentences now, tells elaborate stories, and approaches each day with curiosity. Lily mediates disputes with wisdom beyond her years. She seems to understand that families are complicated, but that love makes everything work out. Mason builds elaborate structures, showing the same focused determination Sarah recognized in herself during those 11 long years of waiting. The Morrisons have become genuine family friends, attending birthday parties and school events. Mason calls them David and Jennifer, and knows they're special people who care about him. When he's older, he'll understand the full complexity, but for now, he simply knows himself to be a child, blessed with abundance of love. Sarah's miracle pregnancy taught her that families aren't built according to plans or timelines or genetic blueprints. They're built through faith and hope, through showing up when things get complicated, through choosing love over and over again, especially when the path looks nothing like you expected. The 11 years of struggle weren't wasted. They were preparation for the complexity and beauty of the family she was meant to have. Every disappointment had been building toward this. 3 children who needed exactly the mother Sarah had become through her journey. After 11 years of waiting for one baby, she got 3. After thinking she understood what family meant, life taught her that the most beautiful families are often the most unexpected ones. After believing biology was the foundation of parenthood, she learned that love transcends genetics in ways both mysterious and miraculous. Sometimes the greatest blessings come disguised as complications, challenges, and plot twists that make the story even more extraordinary than you could have imagined. Sometimes the family you're meant to have looks nothing like the family you planned, but it's exactly the family that was always intended for you. Sarah's children are growing up knowing that love is bigger than biology, that families can be formed in unexpected ways, and that the most important bonds are chosen rather than inherited. The empty nursery that once represented unfulfilled dreams now houses 3 children who fill every corner with laughter, chaos, and immeasurable joy. If this heartwarming story of faith and hope touched your heart, please subscribe for more real-life miracles and share your own stories of unexpected families in the comments below. Sometimes the most ordinary people have the most extraordinary stories, and we'd love to hear yours. What did you think of Sarah and Michael's incredible journey? Have you experienced your own miracle pregnancy or unexpected family formation? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you know someone who's struggling with infertility, going through a difficult pregnancy, or dealing with complex family circumstances, please share this video with them. Sometimes knowing that others have walked similar paths and found happiness can make all the difference. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss our stories of real people overcoming incredible challenges through faith, hope, and the power of love. Because the best stories are always true stories, and the most beautiful families are built with intention, commitment, and hearts wide open to whatever surprises life might bring.